Hey guys, and welcome to episode 121 of Meeple to Meeple. It is a community of one building the perfect solo game night. As always, I'm PJ, and with me is Bo. Bo, how are you?
Hello, I'm very, very well. Now that I'm talking to you. How
Yeah,
are
this
you?
is exciting.
Yeah,
This
good.
is great. This is a great opportunity. So you had reached out to me months ago to come on the show, and we've been wrestling with schedules and the time difference.
Life?
So yeah, life. I'm glad we're able to do this.
Yeah, me too.
So help me out here. I know that you are in Denmark, but I don't want to make assumptions. Where in Denmark are you?
I am in a little town called Galten, which
Okay.
is about 20 kilometers west of our second largest city, Aarhus.
Okay.
So more or less in the middle of the country.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I actually know Aarhus. I probably said that wrong. Simply because in the Nordic countries map of Ticket to Ride, it's on the map.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
like, I know that. So
People
yeah.
usually know Copenhagen and then maybe Aarhus.
So yes, I know Copenhagen, and I did not want to assume that's where you were, but I wanted to talk about that. So, and I'm really excited because I'm really wanting to talk to you about this. You know, I've been this theme has been going through all of my content about building community, and the tagline of our podcast has always been uniting players around the world. And here we are. You are my first Dane.
Oh, I am very honored.
Yeah, this is cool. It's like I'm collecting meeples from around
Yeah.
the world, right? That's kind of the joke. But
Sort of like when
so
you
I was
bring home a fridge magnet from every country that you visit.
right.
Yeah.
Or I have a collection. A few weeks ago, I posted a photograph of my studio, which is my table and chair that I'm sitting in the corner of my game room. If you noticed in that photograph, there's some banners that my wife had made, and we have like these pins, enamel pins that we hang on them. And so that's what we do. We collect
Oh, cool.
like I don't they call them lapel pins, because men tend
Yeah.
to wear them on their lapel jacket.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we have a huge collection of those, and so I'm trying to collect from everybody. So that'll be exciting. My community will be right there.
Right there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
right there. So that's exciting. So I was thinking about how I was going to do, because the community, yeah, it's okay. So the title's a community of one, and that's all well and good. But you can commune with yourself. Sure, is one person a community? How does a community should be defined? Why are we talking about solo gaming? And where you and I are going to dive into that. But I found this great quote by Edward Gibbon.
Yeah.
This is the author of The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire. This 8
Oh,
volume
you're
set.
starting out heavy.
Okay, yeah. I have never. I don't know anyone who's ever finished reading The Decline and Fall of Roman Empire, but I've tried. But here's what he said. He said that conversation enriches understanding, but solitude is the school of genius. Right. So we're going to dive into the school of genius and talk about solitude and solo gaming. So first of all, why did you choose this topic to talk about? Like, what is it about solo gaming that you're attracted to?
I think solo gaming does something completely different than multiplayer gaming. One of the strengths of multiplayer gaming is, like you've said, the community that sort of arises around a gaming table, the stories that we tell afterwards.
Yeah.
Solo gaming does something different. I think it's a more of an almost meditative sort of experience when it's really good, and it's sort of, for me, it helps tidy up my brain. If I have a lot of things going on, sitting down with a solo game is sort of helps everything calm down and settle in.
Oh,
So
that's
I think that's
great.
that's one of them, and I read a lot of books as well.
Yeah.
And playing a good solo game is sort of the same as having a good book that you're reading, because it's your experience,
Right.
and that's the disadvantage that nobody else gets to take part in the story. But I think the thing that I like the most is sort of the solitude, actually.
That's great. It's meditative.
Yeah.
So you've heard me talk about. Um, I don't really play a lot of solo gaming. I've talked about this a whole lot, so I don't want to dive too much into it. It conjures up images of loneliness as a
Yeah.
child, right? Um, but you've given me something to think about in terms of approaching a solo variant of a game, which I do admit, if when I was a child back in the 80s and early 90s, if they had solo variation to board games, maybe I would have felt differently, but that was just not a thing that existed. So, do you have a favorite? Okay, I'm going to ask this question in two parts. Do you have a favorite solo board game, or do you have a favorite right now? Do you have an all? So it's like your all-time favorite, and what's your favorite right now? And if they're the same, that's okay.
I think my all-time favorite, and that's probably my all-time favorite board game as well, is Wingspan. When we're talking about this meditative, serene experience of board gaming, playing Wingspan solo kind of feels like actually going bird watching on your own in the forest when it really hits its stride. But yeah, that's my favorite overall. Right now, I'm gonna go with Final Girl,
Okay. Yeah.
and I'm sorry if I'm jumping ahead of the schedule. Of We talked about this before, but this whole I'm really into the thematic games these days.
Yeah.
So Final Girl is up there. I recently played a solo game called Halls of Hegra, which is
Mm,
about this Norwegian fortress during World War II that you're trying to
okay.
defend. It's a sort of, it feels like the trick with keeping plates spinning, that you have to keep plates spinning all over
Yeah.
the place. Really thematic, really, really hard game, but a really good game.
Wow.
And then the obvious
So
choice is, yeah, sorry. Yeah.
so how do you meditate if you're it's a war game?
Yeah.
I'm like, that doesn't sound very meditative to me.
I, I can sort of see what you mean there. Yeah. Um, well, in the same way that I think my brain is just working to figure out problems, to work out
Sure.
solutions, and that's sort of uh, I think it's when I'm playing a solo game, I sort of when when it goes well, not that I win, when the experience goes well, it's sort of, I can only concentrate on what's in front of me, and so I don't have my phone, I don't have my email, I don't have all these different things barking at me. I just have me in the game. So it sort of narrows the perspective in a way, and at the same time, I heard someone talking about, I think it was Tim Clare's book that I read in, that board games help you adjust to unexpected experiences. So because board
Yes.
games are so random, oftentimes random,
Yep.
it sort of helps you navigate a world that's anything but certain these days.
So is it more about, let's say right now, when you're playing a solo game, is it more about the experience or is it more about the puzzle?
I
Or
would
they
have to
can go
say,
hand in hand. That's
yeah,
okay.
yeah, 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 and oftentimes they do. I think I think I would probably say it more about the experience. I have never played board games to win, which is fortunate because I
Mhm.
never do. So a lot of the times it's the experience. I love figuring out puzzles, but they don't always have to. You know, I don't have to win. The puzzle doesn't have to resolve itself. If
Right.
I've had a good experience and a good story that I can tell myself afterwards, that's
Mm.
at least as important.
Yeah. Yeah. So I love that because it's kind of a core tenet of the way I approach board gaming as a whole. So here we go. I promised you I would have a quote from a famous Dane.
Yes.
And this is a quote from Soren Kierkegaard. Yeah. He said, "Life is not a problem to be solved, but a reality to be experienced." And I'm
Oh,
like, yeah, I think that sums up for me what I love most about our hobby and our community is the experience of, I think I talked about this 2 episodes ago with Laura when we talked about community is unity. That shared experience at the game table, right?
yeah.
That's really important to me above winning. I feel like the this drive to win is kind of like drama. It moves the game forward. It moves the experience forward. But I really like it. I like that. And I've always found solo gaming to be, for me, prohibitive of enjoying that experience because it's not shared. But I have to say, you're giving me a lot to think about. We've only been chatting for like 10 minutes, and I'm already like, man, I really need to rethink solo gaming because this, yeah, you speak so well about that. I think that's really, I love that. A reality that's got to be experienced. And I think games, yeah, you can still experience it without it being a shared experience. Although I feel like, I don't know. Do you ever play a solo game and you have another friend who will play that same solo game and then you can talk about it later? Do you ever have that?
I haven't. I actually
Okay.
think I'm the only one of my friends who plays solo games.
Okay.
And I tried the other day, having pulled off an awesome move in a solo game to tell my girlfriend about it, and it completely fell flat because it felt like I had to explain the whole game, and then she had stopped
Yeah.
listening by the time I got to the point.
I was thinking about like watching a movie, right? Like
Yeah,
you go to the movie theater and you watch a movie, and then when you're done, you and your friends come out of the theater and you talk about the movie you just watched and that
yeah,
shared experience. And so I was like, because I would want to, if I'm playing a solo game, I would want to talk about just like what you experienced. I want to tell you about this really cool move or this cool thing that happened. And if you didn't experience it, then it's, yeah,
and that's kind of the neat thing about then having Instagram or Facebook or Board Game
right.
Geek or wherever you find your community is that, for instance, with Final Girl, there's a Final Girl Facebook group where people just share
Okay.
experiences of playing Final Girl with each other. So it's sort of like we share this solitary experience. The closest comparison I can actually make is computer video games. Even
Sure.
though you're playing those alone, you can talk to other people who have played them as well. Uh, but yeah, solo board gaming has this weird reputation of being this lonely practice that I haven't found it to be.
Yeah, there's a whole sub community. I don't know if this is right. A sub community of gamers within the larger gaming community that really almost exclusively play solo games. I mean, kudos to that. I think that's great. I love that there's a space for people to do that. I understand that not everyone has the luxury of a partner or a spouse who's a gamer. I hear that constantly. And so I do. So that's great for the extrovert in me. If I were an introvert, I probably too would be a solo gamer. I so I want to talk about Final Girl. This game really does intrigue me. The only thing that keeps me from playing is that it's a solo game. And
Mm.
I have this psychological barrier that's preventing me from it. But I think this is amazing because this game, there's so much content, right? That's been produced, and it is an exclusive solo game, right? There's no like two-player variant or anything, is there?
No, no,
Yeah.
that's exclusively solo. And Final Girl is a funny little game, funny little game that shouldn't work but does, because it's solo only, and it's so campy and tacky and everything that slasher movies are, in a board game. I actually read somewhere on Facebook, I think the other day, that there was a guy who was starting to play solo games with other people. So they would play,
Oh.
for instance, Final Girl, two
Mhm.
people, and sort of help each other figure out the puzzle. I guess that was one way to do it if you don't want to play them all by yourself.
Right. Right.
But yeah, Final Girl it's just a it's just unashamed of just being campy and tacky and stealing from everything, because none of them have the sort of the right names for the killers, but then they have a razor face instead of what's he called from Hellraiser.
Yeah. Okay.
And
Because
they
they
have
didn't
a
get the rights to so they had to kind of
exactly
make them up. Okay.
exactly and they have a scenario that takes place on a research station on the North Pole. That's it's not the thing, it's the organism or something. So it's just stealing from everywhere, and everyone knows this feeling of watching a good horror slasher
Right.
movie and then sitting there yelling at the screen, "Don't go in there!" And then it's fun to
Right.
actually go in there yourself.
What is the premise, this concept of Final Girl? Is there a book or a movie? And I say this because I don't know. Horror and slasher films is also another not something I gravitate towards. Was there a book or a series of books or a movie called Final Girl that started this? Or
No, I think Final Girl is a concept in
Okay.
sort of the more maybe not the should we say high art movies, that there's always this surviving young woman at the end
Okay.
who ends up facing down the killer. I don't know if you've watched the original Scream, for instance.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
Yep.
where she finally faces off against Ghostface, who I don't want to spoil anything for anyone who hasn't seen it. But yeah, and that's sort of a trope in these movies, that there's always
Okay.
this one
Sure.
surviving young woman, often that has to face down the killer and then try and survive. And that's the whole premise of all of these scenarios.
So in the game, you're not playing the same final girl, right? You take on different roles each scenario.
Actually, you can mix and match. There's typically, I think, a final girl and a killer. My games are in the studio in each box, and each box is shaped like a VHS tape. It's very thematic. And then there's a location and a killer, and I think 2 final girls in each box. And then you can mix and match those. So you can take like this killer in this location and with this final girl. So you can mix and match them however you like. But no, you don't have to place the same one every time.
That's a lot of replayability, right?
It's insane. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like you said, there is a lot of content for it. I think they just released season 3. So yeah.
Wow. So is it always you're trying to kill the villain, or are you trying to escape the villain, or yes, all of the above?
All of the above. I think it varies from scenario to scenario. Yeah. Yeah. In some scenarios, it's a ghost that you have to escape, and yeah.
Okay. Is there a unifying narrative or a story arc that goes through each season that ties them all together, or are they all episodic?
They're all episodic, and they usually take, I think my games take around half an hour, which is also maybe a selling point if you're not into big, long solo games. Set Up and Tear Down, for instance, has to be really short for me. Otherwise, I lose interest.
Yeah. That's not bad, right? You could come home from a long day at work and spend 30 minutes, and you still have time to spend with your family or your spouse or whatever. Wow. Yeah. Okay. So I get the impression, looking at people's Instagram posts, it was a longer game, right? Like
I think it says 20 to 60 minutes on the.
That's not bad. That is not bad.
Of course, it varies from scenario to scenario.
Right.
You could get a game out in half an hour, I think.
That's cool. That is really cool. And I think that the concept of this exclusively solo game with so much content that's been produced, I really find fascinating. Even though I'm not a solo gamer, I just think that concept is great, and that there's space for it in our hobby, I think is amazing.
Yeah. And I heard an episode of another podcast. Of course, it's very rarely that I listen to any other podcast than yours, but with the premise that there's a board game for everyone. And I think that's the beauty of our hobby, that there really is a board game for everyone.
I totally agree. I'm always trying to promote board gaming to non-board gamers, and I'm like, okay, what is it that you do? There's a board game for you, right? And sometimes I can find it quickly. Other times it's a little bit difficult. It's not always theme, right? Like if you're a doctor, well, you should play Pandemic, or if you're a zookeeper, Ark Nova might be your game. And it might be, but that's not always necessarily the case. Sometimes, they want something different, and trying to figure that out. But I do agree there is a game for everyone, and they should be experienced, right?
They should.
That's awesome. So we talked about Final Girl. It's quite different from Wingspan, though, which is a lot more meditative, like you were saying.
Yeah, that's 2 very different games.
Right.
Wingspan sort of, for one thing, Wingspan was not the gateway game for me, because I had been playing games before I met Wingspan, but Wingspan was sort of the game that started the whole hobby thing for me.
Okay.
Like with so many other people during the pandemic. And it was sort of the first game where I thought, this has a solo mode. I'll try playing it solo. And then I just saw what solo gaming can be. And that is not weird or lonely or anything to play a board game by yourself. And this whole just if you've played Wingspan, you know that's a lot of the game is sitting looking at the pretty bird cards and reading the facts about the birds
That's true.
and you have so much more time to do that when you're playing it on your own.
That is true. Do you have the Wing Song app on your phone?
Yeah, I
That
think
will
it's called Merlin. I think mine is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you take a picture of, or not even picture, you just hover your phone over the card and it will play an audio file of the bird song.
That one I don't have. No.
Yes.
Mine works the other way around. You have a bird that sings and then you hold it up and it tells you what bird it is.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, so you're playing Wingspan, and what my wife and I do is, we play the bird into our little, our player board, and then we'll activate the app. It uses your camera, hover it over the card, it reads the card, and then it finds an audio file of that bird and plays you the bird song of the bird you just played.
Oh, cool.
It's very cool. I will say, though, I find that when I'm playing Wingspan multiplayer, man, playing a game 5 players, the game takes forever. It takes forever. You lose the theme. I feel like the theme kind of vanishes. I feel like you're just moving cards around and putting them in front of you. You're building a tableau, and it doesn't really matter about the birds. Like you're talking about playing it solo, you really can immerse yourself. It's very similar to real life bird watching. And I feel like that kind of gets lost in the multiplayer.
Especially at the higher player counts. Yeah.
Yes.
It turns into more of a game that,
right,
like you said, we're playing to win, not to experience it. Yeah.
So tell me about your local game group. Do you have one? How many are in that group? And how often do y'all get together?
I have one with 4 other guys that I've known since forever. I think one of the guys I've known for 20 years. We get together once a month, and then there's actually I moved to the town we live in now a year ago, more or less, and there's a local sort of gaming community here.
Oh, good.
Who actually they have a festival once a year where the concept is you bring games and we play them for a weekend.
Nice.
And they borrow sort of the local school, and then people can come drop by if they want to. So there's a surprisingly amount, given the town size, a really large gaming community in this town that I experienced, have discovered completely by accident. So I didn't move here to play board games. That's all I wanted to say.
Sure you didn't.
But
at least you found that. You found it when you moved. Yeah. That's really incredible. So what is the popular game in your gaming group right now?
Right now, since we're 5 players, that can be a bit of a hassle to find good 5-player games. We played the last time. I think we played Nidavellir.
Oh, sure.
The sort of recruiting dwarves to fight the dragon game. Architects of the West Kingdom. We've played a lot. We played a lot of Heat. That I can see behind you there. Yeah.
Yes, just above me.
Excellent game.
So good. Do any of these guys play? Do they play solo gaming at all, or is it just you? You're the only solo gamer.
I think I'm the only solo gamer. But if I have to be completely honest, I'm probably also more of a board game geek than they are. It's usually me bringing whatever game I've gotten this week to the meetup, and then we're playing that. I'm the only solo gamer. I have tried to convince them that it's fun.
Yeah.
And it's funny because one of the guys is actually very fond of puzzles.
Oh.
So I figured, solo gaming should be right up your alley. I can't convince him to try it out, but I'll keep trying. And he'll cave in eventually. I know.
Do you ever play a game using a solo variant of a like Wingspan, but any game like that? It has a solo variant. You play it solo, and then you bring it to the group and play it multiplayer. Is that something you do often?
I actually play depending on the game, because there are some games that have extra rules when you're playing them solo.
Right.
But there are also some games that are it's easy to learn playing solo, learn the rules. We talked about Galactic Cruise before we went
We
on it.
did.
I played that solo yesterday, and then I played it with my girlfriend today because then I had the rules. I had the rules present, and that's a game that's it's good that one of us at least know
Yeah.
the rules in advance. Yeah.
How was that experience between solo and two player? Did you enjoy them equally, or how did it play out?
It's a better game multiplayer, I think,
Yeah.
because there's this whole workup bumping positive player interaction sort of aspect that
Okay.
kind of gets
Yeah.
lost when you're playing it solo.
Yep.
But it works well as solo. Only thing is that it takes quite a while to set up. When games take too long to set up, I kind of lose interest when I have to play them solo. That's another advantage of Final Girl and Wingspan, that you could set them up really quick and then be playing quite quickly.
That is very true. That's always a problem with me. I set up the game and I'm like, I'm going to play this, right? I'm going to set aside whatever's going on in my head and I'm going to play this game solo. And I had this experience just the other day in preparation for this episode. I went ahead and played my favorite game of the podcast, Obsession.
Yeah.
Which I have not mentioned since before Gareth went on break. I have not
haven't?
mentioned Obsession. No.
Wow.
I have not. To be fair, I've been so concerned and so motivated by keeping the podcast going, making sure I'm lining up all of my guest co-hosts, talking about interesting topics. And then, of course, everything that's been going on lately in the economic, political world, I've really focused in on community. I haven't even been thinking about, I mean, I play Obsession, but I haven't been thinking about it. And I don't think about creative ways of fitting it into the game, but I have today. So Obsession has a solo variant. And so I set it up and I played it. I've done this before. What I like about Obsession, and I strongly encourage all of you to play Obsession.
I do
solo
too.
if you love it. And if not, play it with your friends because it's great. It has very little admin. There's not a lot of setup. So you essentially, when you're playing Obsession, because it doesn't change much at all, you take your turn, right? You put out your servants, you pull out a tile for an event that you're hosting, you use the cards that are your guests that are going to go to that event, and then you gain the favors, the reputation, the money, whatever happens as a result. You take your turn and you finish. Normally you would pass to the next player. So what you do is there's a market of tiles in front of you that you draw from to enhance your home or your estate. So what you do is you discard the one on the left, you pull it and you remove it from the game, and then you slide them down. And then you roll a d20, and there's a little chart, and based on the roll, you do like one thing, which might be to remove another tile from the market. It might mean something else, right? But that's it. So it's basically take your turn, then you roll a d20. Here, there's a chart, and the chart is printed on a little card, which is so it's not like you don't have to pull out another player board. There's no ghost player or automata or anything. It's just roll this d20. It says to do this one thing, do the one thing, and then move on to your turn. And then there's a whole deck. There's a solitaire deck. So you draw one randomly that is like it's your opponent.
Yeah.
And basically all it is it's got a score that you have to achieve in order to win. That's it.
Okay.
So you still get to experience Obsession as if you were playing with a bunch of other players. It doesn't, what I love is it doesn't alter that experience. Playing it solo is just the same as playing it with other players. So you'll still get to experience it, So yeah, there you go. Thank you, Dan Halligan, for creating an amazing game, a favorite of the podcast, my personal number one. It's still my number one game of all time.
It is fantastic.
It's so good. So yeah.
But speaking of higher player counts, how does that work at higher player counts? Because I know that there's an expansion that can make it go to 5 or 6 or something.
So yeah, so you could play with 6. You're not supposed to.
You shouldn't.
There are 6 houses that are available to play. I don't know that Dan meant for it to be a 6-player game. It was certainly meant to be up to 5. I think when it originally came out, it was a 1 to 4, and then he had an expansion came out that gave it a 5th player. But then there's this other house. I don't recommend playing it at 6. That's like 3 to 5 hours of your day gone because
Oh,
it's long. It is perfect at 2.
yeah,
It is perfect at 3 and 4. 2, 3, and 4 is the sweet spot for Obsession.
okay,
But again, solo works. I think it was like maybe 35 or 40 minutes playing solo just
yeah.
yesterday. And I'm like, okay. So it wasn't a burden of time, but I still got to experience a game that I love, and just play that. And I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
that's one of the things with playing solo as well. I fortunately my girlfriend loves playing games as well.
Good. Good.
Yeah, yeah, she doesn't love it as much as I do. So sometimes I would have to sort of have a I would want to play a game, and she would
Right.
want to watch something on TV instead, and I can sit next to her playing a board game.
Yeah.
That works really well, I think.
You don't get distracted. I have a tendency to get distracted. Like,
Sometimes, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I have to come in the basement and play by myself if I was going to play solo while
Yeah.
while my wife was doing something else because I would get distracted very easily.
Yeah.
It's
That's
like,
probably true.
yeah,
Yeah.
even when reading a book, I can't have music, and if I do have music, it has to be instrumental or ambient music, which is why I listen to a lot of electronic ambient music. I can't, because if I listen to lyrics or if I listen to like NPR, which is the National Public Radio, so it's like it's local and national news. It tries to be unbiased, not to get into all that, but if I want to, listen to that, they also have like special interest pieces and things like that are really interesting topics that come up. And I can't read because then I'm listening to the story on the radio. Or I'm singing along with the song. That is because my brain is broken and
No, I have the same thing. I can't really listen to music when I read. Like you said, I can
yep,
if it's instrumental or something
yeah.
electronic, but I can't listen to anything with lyrics. I'll pay
I
attention to those instead.
I tell you a quick story. When I was in graduate school, I was working on a chapter for my master's thesis, and so I was typing away, right? So when you're writing your master's thesis, you're either researching or you're writing, right? There's no, that's it. There's no in between. So I'm sitting at the computer, I've got music going on, and I'm typing, and then all of a sudden I found myself typing the lyrics to the song that I was listening to. I like,
Yeah, you don't want that in your thesis.
it's like the ancient Greeks were parading down the Panathenaic Way and shake your booty or whatever. Right? I was like, this is terrible. Yeah, I can't do it. I wish I could. My wife she can sew or crochet or read a book while listening to the radio or
Yeah,
watching TV. She's reading a book while watching TV, or I'm like, I can't. I can't.
I tried a couple of times when I'm playing one of the longer solo games to put on a
Yeah.
podcast or something.
Yeah.
I end up not paying attention to the podcast because
Mm-mm.
or not paying attention to the game. So yeah.
I struggle with that too. Sometimes when my wife and I come into the basement and we're going to play a game, like, it's on Saturday, so we're playing. We've got the day free, and I'll put on a podcast. And so, first of all, she looks aggravated, and then second of all, I'm not paying attention to the podcast. And I'm like, man, because it's a board game podcast. I figure we're playing a board game, talk about board. No, it just doesn't work, and that's my fault. So. Yeah, I'll just have to do better in the future. But yeah. So what other solo games do you enjoy or that you want?
So many.
Sure.
The obvious answer would be Spirit Island, and I say obvious because it's
Yep.
been on the People's Choice Top 200. It's been
Yep.
number one since forever. It's a really, really interesting. Have you played it?
I've only ever played it multiplayer, and I mean, I love cooperative games, so I'm trying to figure out how you would play that solo. Like,
You actually you draw one island space, and then you
okay.
have one spirit, and it's hard as nails to complete. But it's one of those games where it's so hard that you can't concentrate on anything else than just being that lightning spirit or whatever you're playing as.
So it's really about the puzzle, huh?
It's really about the puzzle, yeah.
Mm.
And there's something about throwing people in the sea as a spirit. I really, really like it. Luckily, as a solo game, a lot of games have gotten solo modes these past years. I know you talked a lot about SETI.
Yes.
It has a really good solo mode, actually.
Does it?
You're playing against an opponent, but your opponent is sort of a deck that you flip over, and then it does an action compared what's on the card. So it's not something that, like you said with Obsession, it's not something that takes a lot of time and a lot of upkeep, a lot of admin to play with. And that's sort of, I've always, this whole 40 minutes per player or whatever it says on the box, it actually only takes this around an hour to play when you play solo. So you have to have an hour, but yeah. I'm just looking at the games I have in here. Actually, if I was recommending solo games to anyone, I would probably do what you just did. Take one of my favorite multiplayer games and try it out solo.
Yeah.
Because I think the important thing is that you know the rules of the game before you sit down.
So I had an experience. I talked about it like maybe 2 years ago, earlier in the podcast when we did a episode on solo gaming, but I still think about it. This is an example for me of a bad experience of a solo game. I don't know if you've experienced this. So I played Cascadia, a beloved game, award-winning game. I played it solo, and essentially you've got the 4 tiles in front of you and the 4 matching animal tokens, right? And so you're supposed to choose the matching. For those of you who've not played it, you choose the matching and you build it in front of you, and then you replace it, and then your players, and we do this in order. In the solo version, you choose your animal and tile pairing, play it, and then you take the far left, remove it from the game, slide it down, and that's all you do. For me, the solo version of Cascadia felt like I was just moving tiles.
Yeah.
Okay, I grabbed these, I played them, get rid of, slide, and I lost. Like, it was not a good experience for me, right? And I know a lot of players who play Cascadia solo. Some reason, I just was like, okay, I'm just sliding tiles. I'm not,
it's not competition.
It didn't work for me.
No.
Is there a game where you've had that happen, where you're like, the solo game just felt like you were moving pieces around and it didn't, it fell flat?
Yeah, I can recognize that from Cascadia, that there are games where you're sort of thinking, I'm just moving things around. And there are some, I think because solo gaming has become such a big thing, that there's a lot of developers who sort of say this is playable solo. It's not. Fractured Sky, for instance, have you played that one?
I've only played that at multiplayer, never played it solo.
Don't.
Okay.
It really doesn't work, because the whole bluffing thing, and then you play against opponents who have these sort of tokens that you flip over. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
And also I
could see that.
I have an issue with games that are sort of saying that the solo mode is just you playing 2 characters. I bounced off of Jaws of the Lion, the Gloomhaven MIDI version.
Yeah.
Really hard because of that, because if I'm playing 2 characters at the same time, I lose interest in at least one of them.
Right.
And then I lose interest in the story, and then I won't play the rest. So there are exceptions.
Yes.
And as you say with Cascadia, I believe a lot of people like playing Jaws of the Lion solo.
I mean, I've never played it solo, but I love the Gloomhaven world. Played Jaws of the Lion, played Gloomhaven. I've completed Gloomhaven 3 times. I'm in the middle of Frosthaven right now. But I would not, because you have to play 2 characters. And it's unfortunate because the way that the way the game works, you can't play 1 character. You have to have the 2. And I get it. I get it. And I understand. You're going to become attached to one over the other.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That is always a challenge. Absolutely. Yeah. I don't like that ghost player, right? I'm thinking about, although it's not a solo game, it's Alhambra by Queen Games. Well, a lot of Queen Games, actually. They say that they're a 2-player, but they're not.
Yeah.
It's a 2-player, but there's a 3rd player and you've got to manage him. 7 Wonders, the original 7 Wonders was the same thing. Yeah, you could play it 2-player. This is before Duel came out. But there was a 3rd players, so you had to draft, and
Yeah.
then I would draft for him this time, and you would draft for him next time, and I'm like, well, I'm not interested in making choices for someone who's not there, right?
No, the
I
crew
think
also has a 2-player version.
the crew does, and it's not very good. You can't
No,
trick taking doesn't work in a 2-player environment, you know.
exactly.
But I agree with you. You mentioned about designers. They're certainly recognizing the need, the growing demand for solo games or solo variation. And I think they're also recognizing that 2-player, we're seeing a lot of 2-player variants and 2-player
Yeah,
games coming out this year that have been announced. But yeah, I think it's a testament. Once again, I've been saying this, it's a testament to the diversity of our community that we have solo gamers, we have couples who just game and they don't have anyone else. We've got multiplayers, and designers are really embracing that, and they are publishing solo games and 2-players. So I think, yeah, kudos to them for that.
kudos
Yeah,
to them. And there are
absolutely.
designers doing it really well. I think Stonemeyer has a lot of really good solo modes.
Yep, I think every one of his games has that automata
Yeah,
built in. Yeah.
most of them designed by Dane, I might add.
Yeah. Okay.
And actually, games like Ark Nova work really well. Ark Nova, I was going to say A Feast for Odin, work
Okay.
really well as a solo mode as well. But like you're saying, the more the merrier in this
Yeah,
hobby.
that's
And
right.
the big trend last year at that Spiel was this 2-player variant with also with the Lord of the Rings duel, and Azul Duel just came out. Yeah, it's great that really once again that's a game for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. But there's so many solo variations out, and that's great.
Yeah, yeah,
And I know that there's members in the community who've built their Instagram account based exclusively on solo gaming, the solo gaming experience. And I think that it's wonderful that that space exists. I think it goes back to us nurturing the very community and creating space for everyone, even if you want to play alone.
Plus, it's more bang for your buck. That's what I always say. If a game has a solo mode, I get to play it more. That's
That's true.
and that's
That
a good thing
that
in
is true.
my book. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. I think the very first game, I don't remember its title, but the very first board game in the modern board gaming world that I noticed had a 1-player variant, which up until that point was just foreign to me. So like I said, growing up as a kid, there were no solo variations, right? And then when I came back to the modern hobby when I was in college or university, um, it was Catan and things of that nature. And those games, you had to play it 3 players, right? So it was like 3 and above, right? Which was fine because there was a group of us living together in an apartment. So, you know, we were always going to be able to play. So then I'm in graduate school. I met my wife, who was also a gamer, more of a gamer than she was, more into the modern hobby at the time when we met than I was, right? I was like, it was Shea Geek and Catan and Carcassonne, and that's it for me. It was about most of the games I had played, right? She had a lot more experience. We went to a game store, local shop, and there was this game that it was a 1-player only. And I was like, how does that work? Like, I couldn't fathom, like, how does that work? It was some sort of area control game set in the Mediterranean world. I don't know, but that was the very first time I ever saw a solo game. And I was like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, so that's great. How much time do you devote? I mean, because you've got a partner, so how much time do you devote per week to playing games? I mean, do you get it like once a week, or every night you get in a little solo game before the end of the
Um,
day? Or
it was until 2.5 months ago a lot more because we just had our daughter 2.5 months ago.
oh,
So she takes
congratulations!
thank you.
Yep.
She takes
Okay.
up a bit of our time. So
Sure.
but I'm trying to get a game in at least a couple of times a week
Okay.
because it's good for my mental health.
Yep.
and sometimes solo. Today she took a long nap, and we played Galactic Cruise. But I've begun gravitating more towards shorter games. We just got Bomb Busters.
I got to play that a few weeks ago. That's pretty cool.
It's so much fun, and you can play a game in 10 minutes.
Easy.
And yeah, these shorter games that we can play when she's taking one of her naps. So I would say to board games as a whole, I dedicate a lot of time because I spend a lot of time on Instagram talking to people about board games and playing a Board Game Arena. Board Game Arena is fantastic for people in my situation.
Yes.
Because I have 10 games going at the same time.
Wow.
So a lot of my gaming is probably going on there at the moment.
Yeah.
Then I have my gaming group once a month that we're meeting up next Thursday, I think it is.
That's fantastic.
So a couple of nights a week, I would say.
Cool.
A bit less these days, but I try to game as much as I can.
Is this your first child?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
Okay.
And luckily she's very, very low maintenance, so she's not a trouble at all, but she's still there.
But that's going to change.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. And she still needs to be fed and changed and whatnot. So and we have to just spend some time looking at her because,
Of course.
Yeah.
But you know what? Because we've got so many of our friends have kids of various ages. You can look at your child while at a game table.
Oh, yeah. Good point. She actually has a chair that she can sit next to the table.
Yeah.
So she could just,
There you go. See? Perfect.
She's actually just discovered Carlos, so she's always looking at my board games anyway. So that's perfect. I didn't think of that.
There you go. Right? You could hold her in one hand and move your pieces with the other.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah. Or there's those swaddling cloths.
She can sit in a sort of
and you're kind of your hands free. Yeah.
I should have talked to you a long time ago.
And I'm not even a parent. I don't have any kids.
You're just throwing out solutions everywhere.
That's right. Hey, that's what it's all about. Community and solutions. There it is. Exactly, I love it. I love it. Bo, thank you so much for joining me in this conversation. This was great.
Thank you so much for having me.
You really challenged me to rethink solo games. I'm going to try to do that. I'm going to try to
get a copy of Final Go and we'll play it alongside each other.
That sounds cool, right? We also have a friend just north of us in Minnesota, Jacob. He's a huge Final Girl fan and always is posting when he's playing. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe the three of us could play a scenario parallel and then kind of talk
do sort of an actual play of Final Girl,
right? Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna seriously have to think about that.
That could be fun.
That would be cool. Yeah, I really need to think about solo gaming a little bit more. It's meditative. It's good for your mental health. Yeah, right.
Get some short games.
Get in games.
I have a whole list I can send you if you want to.
I welcome that, and that's awesome. So tell everyone where they can find you on Instagram or all your social medias.
Right now, it's mostly Instagram. Punchable Games is the name of the account. I'll be launching maybe some YouTube channel in the not too distant future. I'm working on a podcast. There's all these sorts of ideas that will probably never happen. But for now, go to Punchable Games over on Instagram. I will
awesome.
And stop by and say hi if you haven't done already.
Yes,
I
guys,
always like it when people say hi.
Do that, and please don't forget to like this video. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're 6 months, so we're half a year. My goal is for the YouTube channel to have 100 subscribers by the end of the year. So that's in October. We're at 64. We're trying to get there. So subscribe to the channel if you don't already. Make sure to like it. Please leave a comment either here, Spotify, wherever you're streaming this podcast. Bo and I can see that and we'll respond. I try to stay on top of them. So thanks. Bo, thank you again so much for this.
Thank you.
I really do appreciate it.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks.